Imagine 20 people in a hospital ward participating in a controlled study that would challenge everything we know about nutrition. For 1 month, these volunteers were fed 2 different diets that were engineered to be nutritionally identical in every single way. The meals matched perfectly in calories, sugar, fat, and fiber content, appearing indistinguishable on paper to any standard laboratory test. Yet, by the end of the month, one group had gained weight without even realizing it, while the other group had lost it. With the same nutritional numbers but completely different food sources, scientists were left scrambling to explain this unexpected biological outcome. This mystery leads us to a specific term that didn't even exist until a Brazilian researcher grew concerned about his country's diet. This past January, that very term landed at the center of US federal policy, despite regulators lacking a clear, agreed-upon definition. To understand this, look at the food you ate today. If it came in plastic with a long ingredient list, it is likely ultra-processed. This category includes much more than just junk food. It encompasses cereal, protein bars, flavored yogurt, and most supermarket bread. Many of these items are marketed as healthy, yet they belong to a food category that has existed for less than a century. The problem isn't that these foods are inherently toxic or fake, but rather that they are something far more specific and strange. Scientists did not discover this category by testing chemicals in a lab, but by observing a shift at the dinner table. In 2009, Carlos Monteiro noticed families were abandoning traditional staples like rice and beans in favor of packaged industrial snacks. He observed that as these industrially formulated foods replaced traditional meals, obesity rates began to climb in tandem with the shift. Monteiro stopped blaming specific nutrients like fat or sugar and asked if the industrial manufacturing process itself was the real culprit. He proposed a 4-tier classification system, ranging from whole foods to what he defined as ultra-processed industrial formulations. These products contain ingredients you would never find in a home kitchen, effectively creating a new paradigm for nutrition science. This classification system has rapidly moved from academic circles to shaping government policy across 4 different continents today. However, naming a category is not the same as proving it is dangerous, which required a much more rigorous scientific experiment. This brings us back to that 2019 study at the National Institutes of Health, where 20 volunteers lived for 1 month. The study design was meticulous, with 2 weeks on an ultra-processed diet and 2 weeks on a minimally processed one. Researchers engineered every meal to match perfectly on energy density, macronutrients, and fiber to isolate the effect of processing. If the level of industrial processing truly did not matter, the health outcomes for the participants should have been identical. Instead, the results were striking. On the ultra-processed diet, people spontaneously consumed around 500 more calories every single day. They gained weight on the ultra-processed diet, while on the other diet, they lost weight while eating just as freely. It was the same nutrition label, but a completely different biological response, marking a pivotal moment in modern nutritional research. Despite the study's importance, the lead researchers could not fully explain why these specific weight differences occurred in the participants. When other scientists independently analyzed the data, they found themselves in disagreement over how the results should be interpreted. The classification itself remains a subject of intense debate, even among the very scientists who helped build the framework. Critics argue the category is too broad, grouping together vastly different items like sugary sodas and packaged whole grain breads. In 2022, Monteiro and rival researcher Arne Astrup held a formal, structured debate to argue opposite sides of this issue. This public disagreement is not a sign of junk science, but rather a hallmark of real, unfinished, and evolving scientific inquiry. This is not a closed case with a clear villain, but an open investigation into how modern food impacts human biology. Open cases rarely wait for government policy to catch up, and in this instance, the policy moved faster than the consensus. This past January, the US rolled out new federal dietary guidelines that explicitly advised Americans to cut back on these foods. The push for these guidelines was led by the Make America Healthy Again movement, headed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Interestingly, the official guidelines avoid the term ultra-processed entirely, opting instead for the phrase highly processed for policy reasons. This choice was made because the advisory committee admitted there was not enough consistent evidence to define the term legally. Neither term currently has an official legal definition, and the FDA has only just begun the process of establishing one. We are currently in a situation where national policy is being written around a concept that lacks a formal definition. This policy is based on science that top researchers are still actively arguing about in public forums and journals. So, what is actually happening inside your body when you consume these foods? The leading theory is surprisingly simple. The core issue appears to be the speed at which these foods are consumed, as they are often soft and pre-broken down. Because these foods are easy to chew and swallow quickly, studies have linked them to a significantly faster eating rate. This matters because your body's internal "I'm full" signal takes roughly 20 minutes to communicate with your brain. If you eat fast enough, you can consume far more calories than you need before your brain receives the signal. It is not a conspiracy or a poison, but a fundamental mismatch between modern food and our ancient biological systems. Modern food is designed to be eaten quickly, while our bodies are still built for a slower, more deliberate process. The food isn't necessarily evil, but it is engineered in a way that accidentally bypasses the alarms meant to stop overeating. When you finish a snack from a wrapper in under 5 minutes, it is not a failure of your personal willpower. It is exactly what the food was built to do, exploiting the gap between our biology and modern industrial processing. The scientific community is still debating the details, even as the government has already moved to write the policy. You do not need a laboratory to test this for yourself. The only lab you truly need is your next meal. If the rate of eating is causing this much damage, we have to wonder what happens when we deliberately slow down. This question opens up an entirely different rabbit hole, one that might be worth exploring in our next deep dive. As we navigate this landscape, we must distinguish between the convenience of modern food and its long-term health implications. Understanding the mechanics of our hunger signals is the first step toward reclaiming control over our own dietary choices. The debate over ultra-processed food is far from over, and it will likely shape public health discussions for years to come. By staying informed, we can better navigate the complex relationship between industrial food production and our own biological needs. Ultimately, the most powerful tool we have is awareness, allowing us to make conscious decisions about what we put on our plates. Beyond the political debates and the complex labeling, the most compelling theory regarding these foods lies in the concept of speed. It is not necessarily about the chemicals inside, but rather about the physical texture and the way we consume these products. Ultra-processed foods are engineered to be soft, pre-broken down, and remarkably easy to chew, which allows us to bypass our natural satiety. Think about the last time you ate a snack from a wrapper. It likely required very little effort to chew and swallow. This ease of consumption is a deliberate design feature, yet it creates a significant problem for our internal biological hunger regulation. It typically takes about 20 minutes for the brain to register the signal that we are full. But these foods move faster. Because these products are so calorie-dense and easy to ingest, we can consume far more energy than we actually need. We are essentially outrunning our own biology, finishing a meal before the brain even receives the memo that we should stop. This suggests that the core issue is not that these foods are inherently toxic, but that they create a biological mismatch. We are witnessing a direct conflict between modern industrial efficiency and the much slower, evolutionary pace of our human hunger systems. This is not a failure of individual willpower or a lack of discipline, but a consequence of how food is designed. When you finish a meal in under 5 minutes, you are simply responding to the physical properties of the food provided. The food is built, often by accident, to overrun the exact alarm system that is meant to prevent us from overeating. As science evolves, the focus shifts toward understanding how our eating habits and the physical properties of food interact with biology. Researchers are now looking closely at the mechanics of chewing, swallowing, and the speed at which we process different food types. By studying these interactions, scientists hope to better understand the long-term impact of our modern diet on human metabolic health. The challenge remains in balancing the convenience of industrial food production with the fundamental requirements of our ancient biological systems. Moving forward, the goal is to bridge the gap between food technology and the biological realities that govern our daily lives. Understanding this relationship is the first step toward developing healthier dietary guidelines that respect our body's natural hunger signals. If eating rate is truly doing this much damage, we have to ask what happens when we deliberately slow our pace. That is a very different rabbit hole, but it might be the next essential area for nutritional science to explore. The science is still being argued over in public forums, while the policy is already being written into federal guidelines. Ultimately, the only lab you truly need to test these theories is the one you visit during your next meal. By paying attention to how fast we eat, we might finally start to decode the mystery of our modern relationship with food.